Hi everyone and welcome to my network tour video. I'm going to try and go over everything in my home network as best I can for you guys today. Just as a quick note, I'm filming this in December 2020. So my home network is pretty much changing all the time, but this is going up there as of now, and I will hopefully post some more videos in the future if I make any more substantial changes. So anyway, here we go. So first thing we're looking at here is my home networking rack. So this is a cabinet that I kind of built myself out of an old flight case, mainly because money was kind of tight at the time because of COVID hitting the world and everything. So I was kind of fortunate to get what I could get, really. So this rack sort of is the heart of my network. It has my firewall switches and things like that in there. So basically what I've got from top to bottom is I've got my power distribution unit. So this has 8 channels on it and has IEC outputs on the back. I try and label these as best I can, but they're a little bit inaccurate now, so I need to redo that. Next one down, I have my patch panel. This is a 24-port patch panel. However, it is only wired up to there. So I only have the first 12 wired in. And then I've got these 2 ports wired in for a PoE injector. So there is another patch panel on the back, which is wired literally 1-to-1 to this. I'm not going to show you the back because it's hideous and horrible. But 1-to-12 is wired literally onto 1-to-12 on the back patch panel, and then these 2 just go into RJ45 connectors and go into the PoE injector. Underneath that, I have my UniFi switch. So this is the USW24. It's the non-PoE version because I only have one device in here that's PoE, so I didn't really think it was worth the extra money right now. So it has 24,000 base T ports on there, and then 2 SFP ports, which I'm not using. It also is a Gen 2, so it has the small display. As you can see here, you can see your throughput, you can see the system load, and you can actually go through port by port and see the statistics on it. As well as it does give you the QR code for the augmented reality section, which I have to say is insanely cool. I wouldn't say it was worth the extra money, but it would be if you're in like a huge business environment. Underneath that, I have my USG, my security gateway. That is rack mounted as of today. The bracket came in the post today. The USG is not really designed to be rack mounted. You know, I would love to have a Dream Machine or a USG Pro instead. But as I said, I was kind of lucky to get all this UniFi gear when I did, because of the current circumstances. And to be honest, I'm really happy with the USG. I think the price for what you get is absolutely outstanding, and I don't think I don't think you can get any better value for money for that sort of thing. So I would highly recommend that device, and I also have the option to swap it out for something bigger in the future if I need to. Going down, I have this cable management arm. So I did make most of these cables myself. I'm trying to color code the rack, but it's kind of an ongoing project, just as an attempt to try and make the rack look a little bit neater. So I just try and pin all the cables back in on that. Underneath that, I have a 1U rack mount shelf where I have my Philips Hue bridge and my Hive home hub. So they just sort of sit on that shelf, and I've got some room for some more non-rack mount gear if I need to. And then at the bottom, I have my my NAS server called Orion. Now this is, if you read my blog, this is originally where I had my UniFi controller. It was running as a plugin on here when I first had my original APLR access point. I've only recently swapped that out for an APACLR. I love the long-range access points, and I think they're really good. They're not the quickest things in the world, but I kind of wanted to sacrifice speed for range. So anyway, back to this guy. So this guy has 8 1TB hard drives in there in 2 VDEVs. So I've got 4 drives in these trays here. They're not hot swappable bays. They are literally just trays. You can unscrew them and pull them out, but you'll be pulling out the SATA cables when you do that. So that is my first VDEV. And then I have 2 drives in here, which are not changeable without taking the system out of the rack, which is a faff. And then I have these 2 rack hot swap bays here, so I've maxed out the drives I can get in this box. And as you can see here, I've got a 1TB drive in there and a 1TB drive in there. And I built this server literally from spare parts. It's a gigabyte motherboard with a Pentium dual core in there. It has got 12 gigs of RAM, which I might need to swap out in the future. It's got 2 PCIe HBA cards, so host bus adapters, which literally run 1 VDEV each. And then the 4 ports on the motherboard have 2 Kingston 120 gig SSDs, one of which is a cache drive and one is the boot drive. So this server gives me about 5.2 terabytes of usable space. It's got 8 terabytes worth of drives in there, but I lose a little bit to redundancy. I don't run this 24/7 anymore, mainly because in the UK I got a smart meter installed. This is my first house that I've had where I pay like proper bills. I had a flat with my partner beforehand, but after realizing how much electricity costs, it's kind of, I boot it up when I need it, and then after I've used it, I leave it on for another 10-20 minutes just to make sure that the ZFS is all synced, and then I shut it down. I can wake it up via Wake on LAN, either locally or remotely, so I can access it when I want it and shut it down when I don't need it. So yeah, that's this guy. I love this guy. It basically backs up all of my data. So I have my Plex. I don't have the Plex plugin on here anymore. I used to, but I have I have my Plex data, my software archive, my personal data such as photos, my OneDrive mirrors onto here. I have Time Machine on here. So basically this box, I can afford to lose all of that data and I can replace it, with the exception of one share, which is not really important data. So my software share and my Plex get synced using Beyond Compare onto this guy, which I take off site. So that's a 2 terabyte external, and so yeah, that's my off-site backup, if you like. Behind that, I've got my desktop PC. It's nothing spectacular. It's literally just a HP desktop with 8 gigs of RAM and a quad-core i5. There is one of my old Cisco switches. Before I upgraded to UniFi. Check out my blog for that post. In there is the other one, the SG200, that I have recently sold. So that is my main rack. So on the side there I have the APACLR. It's probably not the best place for it, but at the moment it's okay there, and it gets used all the way to the end of my garden and upstairs. It covers pretty much the whole house perfectly. Excuse the cable mess. My desk is always kind of being pulled apart, so it's going to be a little bit bad. Up here on the desk I have my, I forgot to point out my Dell laptop dock here. That's for my work PC. And then up here we have my very messy at the moment desktop. You can see it's covered in Raspberry Pis, as it mostly is all the time. And I've got my webcams for my 2 PCs up there. I do have a 2-port KVM, which I can change with a key combination on here. So So double control and 2 will change the keyboard and mouse over, and the first screen. The second screen does have a little bit, have 2 inputs on it, so whatever PC is booted up, or I can swap it. As you can see, my work laptop gets a little bit upset when I do that, so I'm going to switch it back. But that has that PC and my work laptop on there, so I can switch between the two. Up here I have my MacBook Pro. That always, I try and connect it with Ethernet as much as I can, so I use that sometimes whilst I'm working. And that is pretty much my desk area at the moment. Over here I have my smart TV. I don't have the exact model number, but it's an LG. This guy connects with Ethernet to the rack that you just saw. So that guy just literally connects to my home network physically using cable connection. Everything I watch is online. I don't even have a working TV aerial. But in the UK, you still have to pay a TV license for that. So that's my sort of smart TV setup. Down here, I have my OpenReach modem. So I have a dedicated fiber line. It's not a leased line. So I have my own fiber line coming into the house that goes in there. And then coming out of there, I have my... that connects to my USG through the patch panels. So this is sort of where my internet comes in, really. In here is my cupboard under the stairs, which is always very messy. It's hopeless. We don't have a loft in this house, so storage is always a problem. But this is my quote-unquote server room. So up here I have my, I think it's called the UniFi light switch. It's the 8-port PoE version. I have all my servers plugged in here, as well as my CloudKey, which I'll show you in a second. The one part I'm really proud of in this network is my ESXi Pi, as I call it. This is an 8GB Raspberry Pi with VMware ESXi 7.0 running on it. It has a 128GB SD card in there, which stores the virtual machines. I run 3 or 4 virtual machines locally on that device. So things like Pi-hole, my Plex media server, which I was astounded that I could get running on this guy. I also have a reverse proxy on there and a web server on there. Plugged into it is obviously Ethernet, and I also have a USB 1TB hard drive, which is passed through directly to the Plex virtual machine. So that's where I primarily store my Plex content, and then it is mirrored to the FreeNAS box, Orion as I call it, which in turn is then mirrored to the USB drive. So I try and keep that data in at least 3 places. So coming down, I have a KVM switch. So this guy is connected to the ESXi Pi as well as my other servers. So down here, I kind of have a mess of servers. So this guy right here, in the really old rack mount case, this is a machine called Mercury. So this is my Windows desktop PC that I use remotely, because I'm predominantly a Mac person. I actually use, although I have got more Windows PCs here at the moment. But this guy I wake it up from LAN, I remote into it, do what I need to do, shut it down. This guy is made from a mishmash of hardware again. It's got a couple of optical bays in there that I use for ripping DVDs to go onto Plex. It has got at the moment 4 gigs of RAM, which I really want to upgrade to 8. It is DDR2 because all of my PCs I sort of build from hardware that I get given, because I try and use my money on other projects. It has got a 240GB Crucial SSD in there, as well as a 300GB Western Digital Caviar Blue, and a Core 2 Quad processor. It doesn't need to be anything powerful. It's literally just a desktop for running Windows apps instead of using VMware Fusion or something. Underneath that, I have 2 other servers, one of which is kind of hidden down there. This is my old gaming PC. It's called Waterbox. That is because it is custom water cooled. It has an i7 4770K, 24 gigs of RAM, 4 Western Digital Enterprise hard drives at 500 gig apiece. This guy is my primary Proxmox server, so this is used for all of my virtual machines. So when I'm building labs and things, they get done on that Proxmox machine. This guy down here I don't really use anymore. He's on eBay at the moment. He is a really old, this guy is called Hydra. He is also a Proxmox server. He has a single dual core Xeon that's about 2 gigahertz and 8 gigs of RAM and 2 500 gig drives. He's not very powerful till it's a really old server, but it's just handy to have sometimes, just to sling an operating system on. It's designed for Windows Server 2003, so perfect for what I use, but a really old piece of kit. And that is pretty much my server cupboard. The only other thing that I'm slightly disappointed with, when I recently bought this switch, because it came from Ubiquiti's European warehouse in the Czech Republic, it came with a European plug, and there is no way to change that. So I had to, luckily, I had a Schuko power brick, and I could put a UK 13 amp plug onto it to act as an adapter. As I said, this is pretty much, I try and keep this section as tidy as I can. At the moment it's a bit of a mess because I came in here like a bull in a china shop and replaced my SG300 with my new UniFi switch. So it all needs a bit of a tidy up soon, which it will get, but I just kind of wanted to get this video out. This device to show, which comes out of the server cupboard down there, is my CloudKey Gen 2. This has just been installed today. So this guy replaced my Raspberry Pi controller I had. I just kind of wanted the dedicated hardware, and because it's PoE powered, it just comes off the switch you just saw in the server cupboard. And I kind of like it here just because it shows the latest stats of what's going on your home network. Had a little bit of trouble getting this guy to work because the only way I could find out what IP address it was when I got it out the box was to plug it in and use the app on your phone. But the app on your phone will only let you set it up as a brand new controller, not restoring an existing config. So I had to set this up as a brand new controller and then restore my config to it, and it did take a little tiny bit longer than I was happy with. But with that all said, the UniFi ecosystem is just outstanding, and even that still took only 10 minutes. So I highly recommend UniFi stuff as much as possible, really. One of the last things I wanted to show in this video is I do have a lot of smart home devices, such as the Echo here and my smart meter. These all live on a separate Wi-Fi network where they are contained, so they are secured from all of my servers and my desktops and things like that. So they all live off the single UniFi access point. I also have a Ring doorbell and a lot of smart plugs, so they all kind of live off of their own secured network, separated from everything else.
So I thought I'd just add this last little clip on the video before I close out and show you sort of more the software side of my home network. So this is the user interface for my ESXi Pi. As you can see, I've got 4 virtual machines running on it at the moment, one of which has kind of been decommissioned now. I just haven't deleted it yet. So as you can see, I sort of am running it fairly hard memory-wise, but you know, I've still got a little bit of room to put another VM or 2 on there. But essentially, a lot of the storage is also used by virtual machines, but the actual CPU mainly idles until I'm watching Plex content or something like that, and it actually hasn't got to do a lot of work most of the time. So you can sort of see here it's a Raspberry Pi 4 Model B. It has 4 cores and just under 8 gigs of RAM when you take off the graphics. I have lowered it down to the bare minimum, so I've got as much memory as possible. The one thing that might throw you when putting ESXi on a Raspberry Pi is that in the UEFI BIOS you need to disable the 3 gig RAM limit. Otherwise it's kind of pointless putting ESXi on there. So yeah, I think it's a really good solution having ESXi running on a Raspberry Pi, and yeah, I basically decommissioned all of my other Raspberry Pis all onto this one box. So the machines I've sort of got running on here, I've got Gemini, which is my Pi-hole server, which I've got the interface open for here. So I'm quite a fan of Pi-hole. I even use the local DNS server built in as well. I have a script that runs on this server that gets the latest YouTube ads, so and blocks those DNS records as well. So Pi-hole is definitely something I was really glad that I did, and my partner also is really grateful for the Pi-hole because we just don't see as many ads. It's not 100% effective, but it is certainly worth putting in. So this guy is pretty much my main DNS server. The next one down is I'll go over the sort of specs I've assigned to it as well. So Gemini has 1 gig of RAM and 16 gigs of hard drive space and 1 core. It is Debian 10 64-bit, but it is ARM 64-bit. You can't run x86 operating systems on the Raspberry Pi. So that is Gemini. The next one along is Apollo. This is it's kind of 2 roles in one. So this is my Plex Media server and my sort of quick access network attached storage. So this guy has a 60 gig 64 gig hard drive or virtual hard drive on the SD card itself, which I use for a few network shares, and then there we go. So the USB device, the J-Micron hard drive enclosure, which you saw earlier, is passed through directly to this VM. So that has a terabyte drive with all of my Plex media storage in there. So this is sort of my go-to network attached storage. The next one down is Jupyter. So this is my local web server. It's sort of web and PHP with no database on there. So this has only got 0.5 gig of RAM and single core and a 16 gig drive. It's not used very often, so it's kind of low spec just for pulling up a site that I'm working on or something like that. The next one down is Hubble. That's the same specs as before, so all run the same operating system, by the way. But this guy is my reverse proxy that I use for taking multiple host names in and essentially route them to the right host, whether that be Gemini or Jupyter or a few other devices. So that guy is sort of responsible for routing stuff coming in on port 80. It also has a script on there that runs a Route 53 update. So Route 53 is an Amazon Web Services service. For 20 US cents a month, I get a dynamic DNS service with my own domain, and I basically run a script on this guy to get my latest IP and shove it up into Amazon. So that's kind of my sort of software area of my home network. I use it for a few different things. So anything that's on the ESXi is basically my stuff for my home network. Anything that's on either of my Proxmox servers are used predominantly for lab environments or testing. So anything on the ESXi is effectively permanent. So I'm going to close out this video. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope everyone's found it useful. So please do hit that thumbs up icon, as I'm really trying to build my subscribers and my likes. And thank you very much for watching. Stay safe.